Good morning, everyone. So I'm Dirk Van Den Wouwer. I'm leading the EMEA program for Johnson & Johnson on serialization and traceability. It's an honor to be here. Actually, I'm replacing Mike Rose, who is, most of you, or many of you will know, he's my VP. He couldn't make it today because he's sharing the FMD work group together with Medicines for Europe in Brussels. So they have now, I think, every month a work group with all the stakeholders involved to follow up and to proceed on the Falsified Medicines Directive's implementation. You will see, I will introduce Johnson & Johnson company today, and then we'll zoom in on what is serialization traceability, and then explain more about some experiences, approaches, and lessons learned we had with a pilot we executed and we are still executing today with the European hub linking to the German national system. You will find a case study on your share. One remark I have, you will see a picture at the back of that case study, a picture of me before the project started. So it changed slightly. I have a bit more gray hair, and I think I also lost some hair. Doesn't mean I don't like this program. I really like it, but sometimes it's demanding, and people who are joining the public policy session yesterday on the pharmaceutical legislations, things tend to change, things tend to become very vague but very urgent. And as I am responsible for the EMEA region in Johnson & Johnson, and as EMEA in Johnson & Johnson is actually producing for the whole globe, this makes this a very complex job for me. But I like it. We are only at the beginning of what has already been a long journey for Johnson & Johnson. We feel excited now by doing the pilot that things become tangible and operational, and that we can prove that our processes and capabilities that we have deployed over the last years, and we are still deploying, that we can prove that they are working. We also learned some things. We learned that there are still things to do and things to improve. The main message today that I want to give is, don't wait till February 2019. Don't wait with serialization of products till February 2019. This project is not only about putting a serial number on a pack. It's not just about retrofitting packaging lines, though this is a very complex exercise. But this is only the start. It's about end-to-end capabilities you need to build. But it's also about putting that in practice. So acquaint the operations with this new process. It's a change that is going to take place in our day-to-day operations. So training, operating procedures, change management is crucial in this arena. I also want to stress the importance of global standards. In this complex program, especially in J&J, a global company, but also dealing with many different regulations, it's so important we try to aim for global standards. So just a short introduction to Johnson & Johnson. We are a truly global company, caring for the world, one person at a time, with a portfolio that spans pharmaceutical, medical devices, and consumer products. Now, serialization and traceability typically touches on OTC products, which is part of our consumer sector, and pharma products, obviously. But we also have some medical devices that are impacted. This is one of the complexities we have to deal with. The different sectors are organized slightly differently. And until today, we have discussions about, for instance, GS1 standards being used or not being used in certain sectors. We are a truly global company with 275 operating companies in 60 countries, and we sell in more than 175 countries across the globe. Again, that makes it important that we can talk with one language, one common language, when we talk about identification of products, tracking events on products, and sharing information on movements of products. Seems we are in J&J addicted to GS1, because it seems that we are leading in the numbers of GS1 cheating numbers across the globe. I also heard that this will get worse because we are rolling out more and more cheatings for pharma now. I'm not sure this is a good thing, because it could show that we are very complex and that we need to work on decomplexifying our portfolio. However, I think it shows that we are convinced as a company that using these standards is crucial to be successful. I can also mention that our supply chain board member is also in the board of the GS1 global board. So that shows how important J&J finds it to use these standards. I may not forget to talk about the cradle. So the cradle spells out the values that guide us in our daily decision making. Our credo challenges us to put the needs and well-being of the people we serve first. It was written by Robert Wood Johnson in 1943, just before Johnson & Johnson became a publicly traded company. It's more than just a moral compass. It's our recipe to success. And the credo is therefore rooted deeply in the culture of J&J until today. I mention this because this is also why preserving safety and health of the patient by implementing serialization and traceability is highest priority for J&J. So what is serialization and traceability? I know most of you know it, but I still would like to repeat it high level. So when we talk about serialization, it's actually achieved by giving a unique identification number to a product, combining that with a unique serial number. A combination of both can make a unique pack uniquely identifiable. We typically want to use GTIN for the product code and then a GS1 standard compliant serial number. It's not one serial number we can use, can be common across different products, but within one product it should be unique. Serialization can be done at different packaging levels, can be done at primary level, secondary level, tertiary level until pallet. But typically when we talk about serialization, mostly it's about the traded unit, which at least for Europe, for the products we make, is a secondary pack level. So moving to traceability, we enable tracking and tracing of the products at the different levels by linking the serial numbers of the different levels to each other. So unit to boxes, boxes to shippers, shippers to pallets. Additionally, we load this information, these serial numbers and this hierarchy into a central database. This then will allow when tracking by scanning the products, the serial numbers through the different events, through the different transactions in the supply chain, linking them to the database, it will allow to track and have a record of all the events at each serial number level. This example in the slide is actually the first product we serialized. It's date already February 2013, just to show that we are already more than 4 years busy in this area. And it shows also the standards we try to adhere to. We have set in J&J a labeling standard, which actually where we aim to use one license plate, which you see here across the globe for all countries, all regulations. As you know, this is not always possible. So benefits, I don't think I need to explain too much about the benefits of serialization and traceability. We saw on the posters many examples what it can deliver. But the main driver here is, of course, or what puts it as a high priority, is the regulations that are popping up across the globe. Currently, we are serializing in EMEA for US, Saudi, China, Korea, and Brazil. And we are preparing now for Russia, Oman, Egypt, Pakistan, Lebanon, Jordan, Qatar, Taiwan, just to show the complexity. Not all the regulations are fully clear, not all the timings are fully confirmed yet. But doing this, creating this point, this visibility from point of packaging to point of dispense will enable patient safety. It ensures unique authentication and verification possibilities. And it facilitates also improved product access by improving the transparency. It will, in the end, reduce the threat of counterfeit, theft, and product diversion. And it will also minimize errors, and as such, improve the logistics efficiency and the order accuracy. So if we zoom in on the European situation, everything started with the Falsified Medicines Directive, which was actually published in July 2011. It introduced tougher rules to improve the protection of public health. To this end, new holistic measures were included, including an EU logo, EU-wide logo to identify internet's online pharmacies, so to distinguish them from illegal pharmacies. It also imposed tougher rules on the controls and inspection of producers of API and strengthened record-keeping requirements for wholesalers and distributors. But what we're talking today about is the last pillar, which is actually, it mandates safety feature on the outer packaging of the medicines, which would be detailed in the delegated acts. The delegated acts, delegated regulation have been published, as you know, in February 2019, and will apply 2016, and will apply 3 years later in February 2019. The delegated regulation applies to the European Economic Area, so including Liechtenstein, Norway, and Iceland, and also Switzerland has voluntarily decided to join. Greece, Italy, and Belgium have a grace period of 6 years, so they can start later because they have a serialization legislation in place, although Belgium has said that they will follow the February 19 due date. The scope is prescription medicinal products, although some OTCs have been put in scope by France and Belgium. They also included or aim to include reimbursed OTC products. Now, another thing that is mandated by the delegated acts is not only about safety features, and safety features is a unique identifier plus tamper-evident feature, which is actually not specified exactly. But it also imposes to put in place an end-to-end verification system that should allow authentication when the pharmacies are dispensing the product or selling the product to the patient. And it should also allow a risk-based verification by the wholesalers. The process will basically work as follows. The manufacturers will submit the serial numbers, the patch information, and the master data into the central repository, the European hub. The parallel traders are supposed to do the same. Information will be passed through to the national systems across Europe. The national systems will then link to the pharmacy systems, allowing the pharmacies, when they sell the product, they scan the product, they will be able to verify the authenticity of the product. On top of that, there is a requirement to maintain the status of the serial numbers by the relevant stakeholders. So if anywhere in the supply chain products are sampled or destroyed, we need to get them out or change the status in the system. In order to achieve that, and the next speaker will talk more about that, there is set up the EMVO, the European Medicines Verification Organization, and we also are rolling out, or the different countries, member states are rolling out national medicines verification organization. They have the duty to implement the national system and later on to put a structure in place to govern, to make it operational as well. So if we now move to our experiences with the pilot, and again, you can find more details in the article that you have on your share. Being one of the largest healthcare companies, and as we have a big footprint in Pharma Europe, we found it crucial to be leading in the field of serialization and traceability, as safety and health of our patient is our priority number one, as I previously said. And that's why we decided to be active in setting up the European stakeholder model. But that's also why we find it very important to join as one of the first, the pilot with Germany. So the definition or the aim of the pilot was to gain experience with the end-to-end European serialization and verification process, and gain experiences with the related capabilities, both internally within J&J as externally downstream. And it's also, one of the aims was also to sustain our engagement within the European stakeholder model. What did we do? We ran system tests with the different systems, and we went live, and we're still live. We're running the pilot as we go. You could call it, we are live. It's not a pilot anymore, I think. But from manufacturing, so from printing the serial number on the pack up until scanning to the customers. The pilot also allowed us to identify some errors or some risks, which we have corrected, and we have also drawn lesson learned, which we will now be able to use when we roll out the 31, it will maybe be less than 31, other national system over the coming 2 years. So here you see one of our products that we included in the pilot. So internally, we started in Q1, Q2 2016 when the German pilot was connected to the European hub. We piloted 6 products, which were produced on 2 sites, 2 lines. We used our internal J&J traceability systems. We have already a traceability architecture in place. It is changing, it is evolving as we speak, but we have something in place, and we use that one. We didn't aggregate the product, so we kept purely serialization of products. We wanted to keep it simple because we wanted to gain mainly experience with the end-to-end part. Until today, we have serialized 42,000 units, and there have been 32 dispenses at the pharmacies. There are about 400 pharmacies that join the pilot. So basically, 1 on 1,000 of our products has been serialized. It's lower than what we statistically could expect. We could expect 2%, but I'm sure there's still some product in the pipeline. And of course, some of the pharmacies in the pilot may not scan all the units. And of course, I don't have a perfect view on the distribution of our volumes within the different pharmacies. So, but we have seen dispenses. We've also seen errors, so which actually is good. I think it's good to see errors. That means things are happening. So there were a couple of errors we found out between the link between European hub and national system was corrected pretty quickly. And then we had found some errors in scanning. There were some scanning errors at one pharmacy, couldn't scan our numbers. One of the issues we had is that we couldn't reach out to the pharmacy because in the reports we get, we don't see the names. I mean, it's part of the confidentiality that is put in the agreement. So, but we were quite confident that it was an issue with a scanner at the pharmacy because we still had samples of that product. We could scan it, and we also had products of the same batch that have been scanned, dispensed by other pharmacies in the pilot. So what did we learn? I mean, of course, we learned again that standardization is crucial, and we have a standard in J&J, a standard architecture, which we want to use across the different sectors. We have our standard license plate that we want to use on the pack. So basically, we could do this pilot without major investment. We could use what we had. It was easily to select a couple of products where we have already the capability in place on the line. We didn't have to do too many special things to get the numbers in our repository system. And we extracted the numbers in our repository system and we load them in the EU hub. By the way, I forgot to mention, but we use the EU web gateway. We don't have a fully integrated loading yet. So we manually load the master data and we load via batch and XML file the batch data and the serial numbers. We do that on a weekly basis. So basically, we learned that we can do it quite quickly. The major effort we put in this project was in aligning the coding standards. There were quite some changes in coding requirements from the Germans. The master data content was a lot of discussion. We wanted to put these data in the system, but the Germans wanted to have other data in the system. There was the EFI who put some data in the EU hub. So finally we got where we want to be, but there is work to do there, and I'm happy to hear that people in this room are also working on guidelines to standardize the approach on master data in the EU hub. And there is the IDMP project ongoing. They will not be live before we are going live, but we need to make sure we are synchronizing very well with them, that we use one language also in terms of master data. We learned some things on special characters that they asked us not to use. In the end, we used them. Reporting, interesting to see what were the reporting capabilities. Complaint management, so we set up our draft complaint management process within J&J. This is a learning, it's not yet the end game, but it's a learning which we can then further leverage when we roll out the other national systems. And another important thing is, while doing the pilot, we started thinking about our rollout strategy over the coming 2 years. Because what we did with the pilot is actually one phase of a rollout. And we have now a well-defined rollout strategy where basically we have to convert 2,800 SKUs within the coming 2 years. And not all the lines, packaging lines are ready yet. Not all the external manufacturers are ready yet. Not all the regulations in the member states have been fixed yet. There are also the national systems which are not all live yet. So how are we going to manage that complexity? So our approach is, I'm going to explain here, is that we start artworks today for those products where the lines are ready and the regulations are pretty clear. Once the artworks are ready, we will start serializing the products, which will start in the next 2 months. We'll start serializing the products and putting them on the market. Once the national system is live, we will load all the serial numbers that have been serialized in the system, also retroactively. And once we have full integration with the European hub, things will get automatically in. There's also another planning factor which is more internal, our internal systems. We need to achieve some more integration internally to allow decommissioning when we destroy products or when we sample products. Also, that is part of the rollout strategy which we put in place. And the German pilot really learned us a lot about how to do that. That's also why we decided to join other pilots. So in Russia, we are joining a pilot. We have been running a pilot in Brazil. We will join the next pilot, definitely. Practicing and testing in a live environment is crucial. It makes things tangible. It moves, let's say, the thing we like to talk about in a conceptual environment, it moves it into practice. It shows that it works or doesn't work, but in our case, the majority worked. It also learned, for me personally, we always want to be first in class. And this time we were not first in class, so there was another company. I'm not going to say the name, but I think they were 1 day or 2 days before us to use the end-to-end capability EU hub national system. So I found that a pity, but I learned to accept it. So in summary, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of 2 things, pilots and practice across the supply chain. There are many parties and variables involved, and we need to ensure we start early and get enough pilots under our belt to ensure systems across the supply chain and across multiple partners can talk and exchange information. We also need to ensure we have enough practice through all nodes in the supply chain to internalize the business process changes being driven ahead of the regulatory milestones. Implementing serialization is much more than implementing packaging line equipment. It's building end-to-end processes supported by integrated system solutions. Using this system to support global regulations requires standardization, and we really need to avoid patchwork of regulations and standards. So both we as an industry, but also the regulators, have a task and have to work hand in hand to try to harmonize and as much as possible the way of working in the future. This is the only way we will get what we want to do, which is enhancing the patient safety. So my final message is, don't wait until it's too late. Dr. Paul Janssen, he always says, our patients are waiting. I would add, our patients deserve safe products 100%. Thank you very much.